of Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire caused a problem for the series. In those games, it was impossible to complete the Pokédex as only 200 of the total 387 Pokémon were available, so Game Freak had to do something so players could actually catch them all. After Ruby and Sapphire, they began work on 3 separate projects. The biggest one of them was the next major games in the series, but that wasn't slated to release for a while. Then there was the 3rd version, which released as Pokémon Emerald in 2005, but prior to Emerald was Game Freak's go at remaking Pokémon Red, Green, and Blue. Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen had one simple goal in mind: take Kanto and give it a fresh coat of paint thanks to the Game Boy Advance, as well as have full functionality with Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, and new content for the post-game, since Gen 1's post-game was lacking, to put it lightly. Top it off with, since they were building it on top of Ruby and Sapphire, this meant that Kanto would see all of the new additions and improvements that were made in Generations 2 and 3, like the Dark and Steel types, plus abilities. The Kanto remakes would release in January of 2004 in Japan, with the rest of the world not seeing it until September/October later that year. Of course, the games sold well and were for the most part positively received. It probably helped that because of how faithful the remakes were, that old fans could easily hop in and see what a 32-bit Kanto looked like. I know the term faithful remake strikes a certain chord in the Pokemon fandom nowadays, and some people might be quick to tell me that FireRed and LeafGreen aren't faithful remakes, to which I want to ask you this: what counts as a faithful remake? Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are listed as faithful, but even they made changes and additions not present in the original Diamond and Pearl, or hell, even Platinum for that matter. I would say that as long as the main quest is relatively the same, that is what should count as a faithful remake. Well, we are still in Generation 3, we're just going back to a game that we've already talked about on the channel. I must say that I am curious to see what my thoughts are, given that I'm only doing this about 6 months after playing the original games. Well, let's dive back into the Kanto region and talk about why Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen are faithful remakes done right. So upon starting, we get this welcome screen telling us all about the world of Pokemon and giving us a basic rundown of how Pokemon games work. I always found this odd, but FireRed and LeafGreen treats this like the first Pokemon games. I mean, they are in a certain way, but I mean that this game has a ton of tutorial features not present in any other Pokemon game. For example, pressing either the L or R buttons will bring up this help menu, which, while great for newcomers, can get annoying. Fortunately, it can be disabled in the options menu. We are welcomed into the world of Pokemon by, of course, Professor Oak, who tells us what he can about these magical creatures before asking us for our name. Dang, I can only pick the names boy or girl? That sucks. So, back in Gen 1, we only had Red to play as, but here we get a female player option as well. This character is often either referred to as Green or Leaf, and I love her design. The color choices on her work so well, and I am kind of a fan of the tank top skirt combo. Red also received a new design, which I much preferred to his original look. It feels more iconic to me. Our rival Blue also got an updated look, and I actually prefer his Gen 1 design more. I think it's solely because of the anime, but to be fair, this new look does give him more of an air of douchiness to him. Once we got our gender, our name, and our rival's name set in stone, we awake in our bedroom, which is located in Pallet Town in the Kanto region. Okay, first things first, check the PC, pull out a free potion, open YouTube, like this video, and subscribe to the channel. We can head downstairs and talk to our mom, who references the Wizard of Oz for some fucking reason. If we try to leave Pallet Town, Professor Oak stops us and calls us a dumb bitch for trying to go without a Pokemon, and forcefully drags us back to his lab, where Blue is also being held hostage. Professor Oak forces us to pick one of 3 Pokemon to be our starter for the game, and these 3 act as the difficulty select for early game. The Grass-type Bulbasaur is great for the first 2 gyms, and only really begins hurting come late game, but by then you should have a full team, so it shouldn't matter. The Fire-type Charmander is the hard mode, as it sucks for the first 2 gyms, then gets good around the middle, then kind of okay come late game. Finally is the Water-type Squirtle, who is good for the first gym, then kinda sucks mid-game but picks up a lot of steam late in the adventure. I decided to go with Charmander because... Fire! 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 Blue will always pick the starter that is strong against ours and will immediately challenge us to a fight as we try to leave. Alright, our first trainer battle! Oh my god, Oak, I don't need you to tell me how to make my Pokemon hurt his! Anyway, it doesn't matter if you win this fight or not, as its sole purpose is to teach you how battling works, since neither of you have elemental moves, so this ultimately boils down to who can crit first. After the fight, Blue pisses off to parts unknown as we progress north onto Route 1. Viridian City is our destination, as we can't really go anywhere else at the moment as this plastered old man blocks the road. So by heading to the Pokemart, we are handed Oak's parcel, and now have to play the role of Norman Reedus and the Funky Fetus as we head back to Pallet Town to deliver the parcel to Oak. He gives us some Pokeballs to catch wild Pokemon with as thanks, as he then gives us and Blue the Pokedex and tasks us with filling it out, or else he'll give our mom a child that she actually loves. Make sure to stop by Blue's house and talk to his sister, by the way, as she gives us the town map because I bet she too is sick of her brother's shit. Returning to Viridian, that old man has sobered up and shows us how to catch a Pokemon as an apology for blocking the road earlier. He then gives us a Teachy TV item that is just another fucking tutorial thing. God damn, they really wanted players to know just what everything is. I mean, I appreciate it, you know, especially for newcomers to the series, but let's be honest, a lot of this tutorial stuff is just unnecessary, and it shows because none of this would ever come back in future games. Before we continue north, we can go west on the Route 22, where we have not only another encounter with Blue, which he of course loses, but we can also find a fighting-type Pokemon Mankey, which I caught and gave the nickname Monkey because... Monkey. You can also pay a visit to the Pokemon League gate, but we get turned away by the very first guard because we don't even have the Boulder badge yet. Now, you would think that the Viridian City gym would be a good place to start, but mysteriously, the gym leader has been absent for some time now, so we gotta push forward instead. Above Viridian City is Viridian Forest, which is crawling with bug Pokemon and the occasional Pikachu. This is the first proper dungeon area of the game, with all of the items you can find lying around. Not to mention, this is also where you'll likely have your first encounters with the regular trainers, who we of course burn to death with Charmander, along with setting flame to all of Viridian Forest itself. Pewter City is a pretty neat place with this flower garden that we can trample on. If we try to go east, this person stops us dead in our tracks, grabs us by the collar, and drags us all the way to Pewter City Gym. Unfortunately, I wasn't done looking around, and Pewter is home to this museum which asks for $50 for admittance in this economy. There are some neat trinkets in here, such as the skeletal remains of extinct Pokemon species, and the space shuttle, which is actually a replica of NASA's... wait a minute, they got rid of it being a replica of the Space Shuttle Columbia? Well, this game is ruined. Pewter City Gym is home to the rock-solid Brock, who specializes in the Rock type. Now, back in Generation 1, while he did have Rock Pokemon, neither of them knew Rock-type moves. Well, that has since been corrected here in Gen 3, so that makes fighting him with a Charmander all the more difficult. At least Charmander does learn Metal Claw at level 14, which does help, not to mention Mankey being available before Brock helps as well. For breaking Brock's rocks, we get the Boulder badge as well as TM39 Rock Tomb. As we make our exit from Pewter City, we get stopped by one of Professor Oak's aides who gives us, oh my god, yes, the running shoes on! Oh, I missed you! Oh god, they really keep these from you for a while in this game. God, this is gonna make traversing Kanto so much faster than the original games. As we progress on to the next route, I want to take a moment to talk about... wait, I actually don't have anything. Normally after the first gym is when I talk about the new additions to a generation, but this is still Gen 3, so what should I do? Well, I suppose I could talk about the various changes and additions made since Gen 1 and how they affect the overall Kanto experience. Let's start off with how Psychic types have been horrifically nerfed. Thanks to Generation 2 splitting the special stat into special attack and special defense, Psychic types are a lot more balanced this time around, since Pokemon like Alakazam no longer have monstrously high special defense as a result of both stats originally being 1. Don't get me wrong, Psychic types are still really good, they just aren't the end-all be-all that they used to be back in Gen 1. The Dark and Steel types also do a lot to help the experience of Kanto, since some moves like Bite went from being normal to Dark, not to mention the Magneton family being retroactively made Steel types. Pokemon move pools and learn sets are also just much better this time, as Pokemon can learn a larger variety of moves from both level up and from TMs. One last thing is abilities, which definitely spices up the gameplay with the sheer amount of them that there are. It adds a subtle new layer to battle, since Pokemon like the Nidoran family can have the Poison Point ability, which has a chance of poisoning the opponent if they get hit with a physical move. Speaking of Nidoran, I managed to find one and catch it, and I just know what to name it. That way when I send it out into battle, it'll spook people when they see Rayquaza, only for it to be a poison mouse.
There's supposed to be a U in there.
Shut up! In the Pokemon Center outside of Mount Moon is this sleazy salesman who will sell us a Magikarp and only for $500? What a deal! I think I'll name you Skullkraken. Mount Moon is a cave dungeon full of trainers just itching the battle, not to mention... Let me tell you, thank God for Mankey, as he's able to make quick work of a lot of these rock Pokemon, since Charmeleon, you know, if he sees a rock. Deep within Mount Moon are several gangsters belonging to the organization called Team Rocket, who are essentially the Mafia. They want to capture Pokemon and sell them for profit, and will even steal Pokemon from other trainers. They're here looking for Pokemon fossils, which we managed to find before them, but we had to fight this angry nerd for the opportunity to just get one of them. We can choose from either the Dome Fossil or the Helix Fossil, and I felt like being a little spicy and picked up the Dome Fossil. I know that might be considered heresy to some people, but look, I chose the Helix Fossil back in Gen 1, so I think it's After exiting Mount Moon, we shortly arrive in the wonderful Cerulean City, and there's a decent amount to do here, like the next gem on our list, ogling the bikes that we can't afford. Seriously, what the fuck happened to cause these things to be worth $1 million? Tantalizing over just what is in that cave over yonder, and lastly, head north to Nugget Bridge. Blue shows up and gloats about how he's the alpha male who gets all of the bitches and we're just some beta cuck who only cares about emotions, before we steamroll him and his entire team like it's another Tuesday. Blue suggests that we head to Bill's cottage since he's the inventor of the PC storage system, but then also comes back saying how sorry he feels for us, that we'll never be as good as him, and hands us another new item, the Fame Checker. Talk about a weird little device. This thing collects information on various important characters like the gym leaders, for example, and will let us view various quotes from them or other characters talking about them. And I really don't get why this thing is here. It just gives you information that you learn by talking to these people. It should have been something that gives you additional background information on them instead, but to be fair, this is also entirely harmless no matter what. We have to fight our way through several trainers on Nugget Bridge and the adjacent route to reach Bill, where along the way, this person gives us a nugget, a high-price selling item, and then tries to recruit us into Team Rocket, which we of course refuse the manual way by beating the absolute shit out of his Pokemon. Finally, we reach Bill's Sea Cottage, where the man himself... look, man, I get it. I'm a furry too, but Christ, man, literally transforming yourself into a Pokemon might be a little... too much. After helping Bill become a human once again, he gives us a ticket to board the SS Anne in Vermilion City so that we don't speak about his habits with other people, which, I wonder if Blue knows about this. Now we can take on the Cerulean City Gym, home of the tomboyish mermaid, Misty, who will dazzle us with her water Pokemon. Once again, Charmeleon is no help here. Well, truth be told, I actually struggled quite a bit with this gym because I don't have any good ways to deal with her Staryu or Starmie outside of just overpowering them. If you have something like a Pikachu or chose Bulbasaur at the start of the game, then you should do fine. For depriving Misty's team of water, we get the Cascade Badge as well as TM03 Water Pulse. After Misty is beaten, this police officer will let us into this house which has been completely ransacked by Team Rocket, who made off with a TM. Fortunately, we find the culprit just 5 feet from the house and proceed to fold him like a fucking lawn chair until he hands over the TM, which contains the move Dig. As we head south for Vermilion City, we have to take this underground path as we can't go into Saffron City because these guards are a bunch of bitches and refuse to let us in because of just how thirsty they are. Well, I mean, if you guys are thirsty, I don't mind helping you with that if you catch my drift. I mean sex. Finally, we reach Vermilion City, which is home to the port that the SS Anne is docked at. But before that, I went to the Pokemon fan club and talked with the club president, where I had to sit through his conversation about how much he wants to fuck a Rapidash, and as thanks for listening to his fantasies, he gives us a bike voucher. After that, we board the SS Anne and explore around, finding several items and fighting various trainers on board. This area didn't take as long as I was anticipating, and I'm pretty sure it's because I didn't have to run back and forth between this place and the Pokemon Center to deposit items. Fortunately, Game Freak has been expanding the bag's capacity more and more that come Generation 3, it rarely is an issue, and once we get to Gen 4, the bag space just becomes flat out infinite. We encounter Blue on our way to see the captain, where he of course challenges us to a battle that he loses so badly, he benches his Raticate in a coffin. We can now go see the captain, who is seasick. Wait, how can you be the captain of a cruise liner and get seasick? That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, after giving him a shoulder rub with our magic mic fingers, it seems to magically cure his seasickness, which as thanks, he gives us the HM for cut, which allows us to cut down this shrub by the Pokemon gym. Vermilion City's gym is ass. It's always been ass and will forever be ass. This fucking gym puzzle, I've bitched about it before and now I get to do it again. Who at Game Freak keeps doing this? Having to search every fucking trash can and then having to take a stab in the dark at which of its neighbors has the second switch in it sucks, and it's why this gym can take you either 2 minutes or if you're really unlucky, 2 hours. Lieutenant Surge, the Lightning American, is our third gym leader who will zap us with his shocking electric-type Pokemon. This is where Squirtle would start to have some trouble since water is weak to the electric type. Fortunately, the nearby Diglett Cave is home to the little ground moles, which can be a great asset for the gym battle, although I didn't have too much trouble here because of how admittedly overleveled I was. I didn't even do that intentionally, it just kinda happened. For grounding Lieutenant Surge, he awards us the Thunder Badge and TM34 Shockwave. Now, afterwards, we gotta go through Diglett's Cave and exit on the other side to reach Pewter City once again, as on the outskirts of Viridian Forest is one of Professor Oak's aides who will hand us the HM for Flash, but only if you have 10 Pokemon registered in the Pokedex. We can also enter the backside of the museum and talk to the scientist who hands us the Old Amber and tells us that a lab on Cinnabar Island might be able to revive the Pokemon contained inside the fossil. Returning to Cerulean, we can pay a quick visit to the bike shop and redeem that voucher for a bicycle of our own, and oh, it's about as fast as Hoenn's Acro bike and not the Mach bike. Well, that's disappointing. Heading west to Cerulean, we'll eventually reach Rock Tunnel, this dark as shit cave system, which is why you might want Flash. Just teach it to an HM slave or something unless you really want to use that move in battles. There isn't really much to do here outside of some items and trainer battles, so after we exit on the other side, we reach Lavender Town, the most depressing city in a Pokemon game. Do you believe in ghosts? No? Haha, I guess not. That white hand on your shoulder. Huh? We'll just ignore the massive grave tower for now and head east to Celadon City, which we gotta take another underground path to get to because the guards are still horny for water. Oh, don't worry, I'll get you guys your horny water, just you wait. Celadon City is a bustling metropolis with a ton of commerce like the department store, the game corner where we can develop a crippling gambling addiction at the ripe young age of 11, and our next gym. There's also this condominium where we can talk to this old woman inside to receive the tea item, which we can give to the Saffron guards to finally access Saffron City. We can also procure this Pokemon called Eevee, which I decided to evolve into a Jolteon since it's the Oh, okay, alright then, everybody welcome back, Vaporwave. Now, this is the part where I would make a joke about Vaporeons being the best for fucking, but I have standards now, so I shall refrain from doing so.
If you come on a Vaporeon, its body turns white.
Don't you fucking dare bust a load on my Vaporeon. We can head east of Celadon, but we won't get very far thanks to this big fluffy bear blocking the road. We can at least get the HM for Fly by breaking into this person's secret house and doing unspeakable acts in front of them. Now let's tackle the Celadon gym after failing to use Cut on the old man peeping in on the girls from the outside. In case you couldn't tell, this gym specializes in the grass type, which is great for Charmeleon, not so much for everyone else's lungs. Erica, the nature-loving princess, will try to tingle us up in her grass attacks. But again, Charmeleon is not only overleveled, but also... For making Erica homeless, we get the Rainbow Badge, as well as TM19 Giga Drain. With Erica dealt with, we can go back to the game corner and speak with this suspiciously placed Team Rocket grunt who battles us, loses, and runs away, revealing that behind the poster that he was guarding is a switch to open the entrance to Team Rocket's hideout. It seems we got some business to do here as we smoke out every single Rocket grunt in the base while also being spun right round on these tiles, and thank God they sped these up compared to how slow they moved you in Gen 1. As a result, this place doesn't take nearly as long to get through, meaning after maybe around 20 or 30 minutes we reach the boss of Team Rocket, a man by the name of Giovanni. His team isn't hard at all to take down. His Rhyhorn and Onyx fall pretty fast if you just, spray them with some water, and his Kangaskhan can get obliterated if you have a fighting type on your team. After beating him, he makes his exit from the hideout whilst also leaving behind the Silph Scope, which we can use back at Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town to reveal the identities of the various ghosts within. As we climb Pokemon Tower, we encounter Blue yet again while he was in the midst of making fun of his dead Raticate for not being good enough. The tower itself is home to a bunch of channelers who will attack us with their ghost Pokemon like Ghastly and Haunter. Towards the top of the tower is this vengeful spirit that is the soul of a dead Marowak, which I thought would be funny if I caught it. Unfortunately, you can't catch dead Pokemon to use as HM slaves, so I just killed it instead. God, that Marowak is double dead. Does that mean it goes to double hell? At the top of the tower is a bunch of Team Rocket grunts who are pestering this sweet old man named Mr. Fuji, who came here to calm Marowak's spirit. As thanks for driving off Team Rocket and, putting Marowak to rest, he gives us the Pokeflute, which can awaken slumbering Pokemon. We can use it to get the Snorlax off its ass, opening up the way to Southern Kanto. Now we have two ways that we can reach the next city. We can take Bicycle Road east of Celadon, which is definitely the fastest way, but has fewer trainers. Or you could go south of Lavender, which is much longer, but has way more trainers to fight.
The choices are yours, and yours alone.
Regardless of which way you go, the destination will be the same. Fuchsia City is home to the next gym, but more importantly, the Safari Zone. Fortunately, thanks to Hoenn also having a Safari Zone, the implementation of Kantos is more or less the same, except instead of using Pokeblocks, you just use bait, and you throw rocks at Pokemon instead of inching closer to them. Unlike in Hoenn though, we're required to go through the Safari Zone in order to get 2 items. In this house in Area 3 is a guy who gives us the HM for Surf, but just outside of it is the Gold Teeth, which belongs to the Safari Zone Warden. When we return his teeth to him, he gives us the HM for Strength as thanks, and I only have one thing to ask: why the fuck can Nidoking learn Surf? While I was here, I also took the time to add 2 more members to the team, an Execute that I named Eggsy and a Scyther called Guillotine. I did also try to find a Tauros, but after like an hour, I didn't find a single one, which just left me with one question. How the fuck did Ash catch 30 of these things in the anime episode where the Safari Warden points a gun at his head? Also, you can't forget Meowth's mustache in that. I'm not surprised 4Kids didn't air that episode in America. Before taking on the next gym, we can head for Saffron City, only to find it crawling with Team Rocket, who are blocking the way into several buildings, except for the Fighting Dojo and the Silphco building. First, let's tackle the dojo, as all we have to do is fight 5 trainers, and we get to take home either a Hitmonlee or a Hitmonchan as our prize. Shockingly, it is actually rather easy to take down fighting-type Pokemon when you have a Chode Palm Tree that can make their balls explode with its mind. Silphco is a massive maze requiring usage of teleporters to get around, which I imagine is neat when you first start working here, but after like a year of being a desk jockey, I can imagine getting confused and frustrated by these things. Team Rocket have taken over the building as Giovanni is having talks with the president of Silphco. We can find Blue in here for some reason. I genuinely have no clue why he's here. I don't think he gives a damn about stopping Team Rocket at all. But we do get gifted the Pokemon Lapras as thanks for rescuing this person. At the top of the building is Giovanni, who greets us and tells us to stay the hell out of his way or he'll have us disappeared. Giovanni sends his Pokemon out to attack us, which we of course counter with the cherry-popping heartthrob Monkey to punch his Kangaskhan's child in the face. Giovanni and Team Rocket leave Saffron in shame, and as thanks, the president of Silphco gives us the one-of-a-kind Master Ball, which can catch any Pokemon without fail. Now we have options as to which gym we can do next. We need to do both Saffron City and Fuchsia City's gyms in order to progress with the game, but which one you do first ultimately doesn't matter. Fuchsia City's gym has this invisible wall maze that we need to navigate in order to confront the gym leader, Koga, the poisonous ninja master. He of course deals in the poison type, which if you have a psychic type, will be fast and easy. If you don't have a psychic type, the fuck is wrong with you? You dumb motherfucker. Go out there, catch one, train it up. I have no idea where I'm going with this. For sterilizing Koga, we earn the Soul Badge in TM06 Toxic. Sabrina the Teenage Witch heads the Saffron City Gym and will give us Chris Angel Mind Freaks with her psychic Pokemon. Thanks to the many nerfs psychics have received since Gen 2, she actually isn't as threatening as she once was, since a good chunk of her Pokemon have no defense to speak of whatsoever, so you can just brute force a lot of these guys like her Alakazam, which I just used Charizard's Flamethrower to put down. For stupefying Sabrina, we get the Marsh Badge as well as TM04 Calm Mind. Now with all of that out of the way, we can progress towards Cinnabar Island, but first we need to navigate through Seafoam Islands to get there. Seafoam is home to several Ice-type Pokemon if you want to pick any of them up, but also the legendary Pokemon Articuno, which I'm not going to catch right now. Let's just keep it in the back of our minds for later. Alright, Cinnabar Island is home to that aforementioned research lab that the scientists back at the Pewter Museum mentioned, and if we take the Dome Fossil and the Old Amber there, they can be revived into the Pokemon Kabuto and Aerodactyl respectively. That's not the only thing we can do here, because as it turns out, the gym is locked, requiring us to find a key that is hidden inside Pokemon Mansion. This place has definitely seen better days, but like, can you imagine the kind of parties that were held in this place? It must have been some wild shit if this was the result. Throughout the mansion are several journals detailing the discovery of the Pokemon Mew and the creation of its offspring, Mewtwo. Dang, so they were those kind of parties, huh? Well, in the mansion's basement is the secret key, which is what we need to access the next gym. Cinnabar's gym is interesting. You have to either take these quiz questions and get them right, or face the trainers instead, to which I have to say, are you crazy? Of course I'm fighting the trainers, that's free EXP! The hot-headed Quizmaster Blaine will attempt to turn us to ash with his Blazing Fire Pokemon, which if you have a water type of any kind, seriously, Vaporwave made quick work of Blaine's team, and as assurance that we never stop by for a visit again, Blaine gives us the Volcano Badge, which is a rather foreboding name in hindsight, but also TM38 Fire Blast. Now here's where something new happens. Bill will show up outside the gym and offer to take us to a place called the Sevi Islands, a chain of islands unique to FireRed and LeafGreen. Now you can just straight up tell Bill no, to which he just heads to the Pokemon Center if we change our minds, allowing us to progress with the game just like the originals did. However, it's new content, we gotta experience it. If we agree to Bill's proposition, we get taken to one island, where Bill introduces us to his friend, Celio, who is trying to get Bill's PC storage system working on the Sevi Islands, so Bill tells us in the meantime to explore around, and Celio gives us this meteorite to deliver to the Joyful Game Corner's owner on 2 Island. Heading over to 2 Island, we see the Game Corner's owner in a frantic panic because his daughter, Lostelle, is nowhere to be found. Gee, maybe it's because you named your daughter Lostelle. Seriously, that's like naming your daughter or something and expecting her to not get, you know.
CeeCee, you can't say that.
Some bikers then show up and start causing trouble on the nearby 3 Island, so we make our way over there, where we need to fight off several of these biker goons, and yes, that is literally what they're called. We can ask the locals about Lostelle, where they say that she was last spotted near Bond Bridge. While we make our way over there, I do want to mention that this was definitely the best time to introduce the new content, because if you remember back in Gen 1, there really wasn't much to do in between Gyms 7 and 8 outside of one route. The Sevi Islands fixes that and adds more to do to get your Pokemon better equipped for that final gym challenge. Not to mention, it's just nice to finally see areas that have the same design language as Hoenn, since most of Kanto is damn near one-to-one with the original games. We end up in the Berry Forest looking for Lostelle, where we eventually find her as she was apparently lured here by a wild Hypno, which is terrifying to think about. I mean, look at that face! With Lostelle found, we return her to her father and give him the meteorite while also demanding that he change her name to Foundel so that this shit doesn't happen again. I decided to explore more of 1 Island out of curiosity, which led me to this hot spring run by this old man who gives us the HM for Rock Smash. Oh boy, more HMs. But this one is required to go through certain parts of the Sevi Islands. This led to Mount Ember, a place teeming with fire types, and by that I mean Ponyta, Rapidash, and in Leaf Green only, Magmar. Come on, guys. You could have at least thrown some Growlithes or Vulpixes in here to really, drive home the... They moved you here from Victory Road. Alright, I'll keep that in mind. With our quest in the Sevi Isles done for now, we head back to Bill and Celio, who thank us, and with that, we return to Cinnabar Island with our next objective clear as crystal, return to Viridian City, and take on the final gym leader. When we arrive in Viridian, we learn that the gym leader has indeed returned, and just in time. However, it's unknown who the gym leader is, other than that they specialize in the ground type. Well, when we fight our way through all of the trainers, we find out that the gym leader is none other than Giovanni, the boss of Team Rocket. God damn it, this guy just doesn't learn! Actually, you know what? I know how we can get him to go away for good. Given that all of his Pokemon are ground types, he is very, very weak to water, especially his Ace Rhyhorn, which he strangely hasn't evolved into a Rhydon yet. For beating Giovanni a third time, he throws in the towel and hands us the Earth Badge, along with TM26 Earthquake. Giovanni realizes that how he treats Pokemon isn't the way to become a stronger trainer, and seeing us over the course of our journey is what made him realize that. So he calls it quits and formally disbands Team Rocket, before wandering off to parts unknown. With all 8 badges under our belt, we can make our way to the Pokemon League, but not before one more encounter with Blue, who gets decimated by our team. To Blue, however, this is just proof that we suck ass at Pokemon, and he is the true Pokemon Master who is destined to become champion. He's not exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer, is he? As we make our way north on Route 23, the guards will check to see if we have the necessary badges to progress further, and after all 8 badges have been checked, we can enter the final dungeon of Victory Road, a cave full of some of the strongest trainers and wild Pokemon we've yet seen. You have to solve these strength puzzles in order to progress further, which aren't complicated in the slightest. Also, you can find a guard spec where Moltres was originally located in case you were curious about that. Once we exit Victory Road, we find ourselves at Indigo Plateau, home of the Pokemon League. But before we take them on, I think now is an appropriate time to do some legendary hunting! As we saw earlier, the flaming chicken known as Moltres can now be found on Mount Ember instead of its original position on Victory Road. Moltres is fine, but personally there are better fire types out there. If we head south of Rock Tunnel's northern entrance, we can find the Power Plant, home to various electric Pokemon, including the electrifying Zapdos, who is actually really good, not only to use casually, but also competitively. Lastly is the freezing Articuno at Seafoam Islands, and... what happened to you, Articuno? Blizzard went from 80 to 70 accuracy, and the frozen status doesn't even keep Pokemon frozen indefinitely anymore. Now you're just some sad, strange, but pretty burb. With all of that out of the way, we can now tackle the Elite Four, and remember to bring as many healing items in with you as you think you'll need. First up is Lorelei, who will freeze us with her Ice Pokemon. Honestly, because of those aforementioned nerfs that the Ice type saw to its best traits, she isn't as tough due to how frail a lot of Ice types are. Next up is the one we don't talk about, Bruno, the master of fighting Pokemon. He has 2 Onix on his team in the late game. Yeah, guess how hard he is. Bruno is fine, but if you have a Psychic type, which you should, he is a total pushover. Thirdly is Agatha, who will frighten us with her Ghost Pokemon. Although because the only Ghost Pokemon that are in Kanto are also Poison types, and because all of her Pokemon have the Poison type, all of her Pokemon are, yet again, weak to the Psychic type. Awaiting us at the end is the final member of the Elite Four, the Dragon Tamer Lance. He can definitely give you a run for your money because of how difficult dragons are to take down, but if you have something with an Ice-type move, it can make fast work of all of them, including his ace, Dragonite. With Lance defeated, he congratulates us, but tells us that we need to beat the current champion in order to claim the title for ourselves, and the champion is revealed to be none other than Blue. He talks about how he's assembled teams that could beat any Pokemon type, which has now led him here to the champion position, which to him only means one thing. Blue is now the most powerful Pokemon trainer in the world! starts off the fight with his level 59 Pidgeot. He will also always have an Alakazam, which can be trouble if not dealt with, and a Rhydon, which has a crippling allergy to wetness. His final 3 Pokemon are determined by his starter, but they will always be a Fire, Grass, and Water type. This fight can be hard if you aren't prepared for it, or if Lance fucked you up that much, but it's only a matter of time before Blue's final Pokemon falls at the hands of Vaporwave. Blue is furious that he lost the title of champion only moments after getting it. Top it off with Professor Oak soon shows up and scolds him for losing to a 2-bit trainer like ourselves and promises to put him up for adoption. Oak congratulates us for making him realize how worthless his grandson is and has us and our Pokemon inducted into the Hall of Fame, ending the main game story. When we load back in, Oak asks us how many Pokemon we've caught and is disappointed to see that we only have 34 registered in the Pokedex and tells us to see them when we have more Pokemon captured. So for some reason, all of post-game is locked behind the National Dex, but in order to get the National Dex, we have to have a bare minimum of 60 Pokemon registered. This is dumb, really dumb. Other games just give you the National Dex for beating the game, so why have a catch requirement and only this one time? You can't even evolve Pokemon like Golbat or Chansey into their Gen 2 evolutions until you get the National Dex, which makes no fucking sense. Anyway, after a few hours of doing nothing but catching Pokemon, we get Oak to hand us and a newly put up for adoption Blue the National Dex. Now with that, why don't we pay a visit to Cerulean Cave and... the guy is still blocking the entrance. So he says we not only have to become champion, but also have to make a great achievement? Whatever that means. So I think what we should do instead is head back to Celio on One Island. Celio welcomes us back and says that he's performing upgrades to the PC network system and asks us to head to Mount Ember as a rare gemstone that's hidden within could help provide the necessary power needed for the upgrade. Once we get there though, we see 2 Team Rocket grunts skulking around this cave entrance, and after scaring them off we are free to head inside where we can find a Slugma. So what's cool about the post-game areas of the Sevi Islands is that we can find Pokemon from the Johto region and even get items to evolve the Kanto Pokemon that got new evolutions in Johto, like Scyther into Scizor. Within the Mount Ember Cave is this strange room with Braille written all over the walls, but more importantly, we can find that gemstone Celio wanted, which turns out to be a ruby. If we give him the ruby, he states that we need another gemstone that pairs well with the ruby, and gives us the Rainbow Pass so that we can freely explore the rest of the Sevi Islands. With that, we can now travel to the 4 post-game islands, and what's cool about them is that they all use remixed music from Johto as their background music. 4 Island is home to the daycare, allowing us to breed Pokemon, but also Icefall Cave, where we not only get the HM for Waterfall, but find Lorelei, who asks us to help her take down some poachers belonging to Team Rocket. It seems some people didn't get Giovanni's memo. We find out that they have a warehouse on 5 Island, but it's password protected with 2-factor authentication, so we need to find a way to spoof it. If we travel to 6 Island, we can find Dotted Hole, which is actually a Braille puzzle cave requiring us to fall down the right holes to get the second gemstone, the Sapphire. Only to have some asshat take it right from us to sell it to Team Rocket, but the moron gives us the password needed to get into the base. God damn it. Inside the warehouse, we have to beat several Team Rocket grunts, while also informing them about the team's disbandment by Giovanni. Eventually, we find a Team Rocket admin who denies the reality of Team Rocket's fate until we spray his Houndoom with some Windex. He swears that one day he will return and revive Team Rocket himself and find Giovanni, setting up Team Rocket's eventual return 3 years from now in Johto. We managed to get the Sapphire back from the asshole that took it from us in the first place after threatening him with Vaporwave's sleek, slender, wet vibe. After giving Celio the Sapphire, he can establish a link with the PC system in the Hoenn region, allowing us the ability to trade with Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, as well as Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness on GameCube. With that out of the way, we can finally enter Cerulean Cave, home of some really powerful Pokemon and great items. Awaiting us at the end of the cave is of course none other than the legendary Pokemon Mewtwo, who is still as powerful as he used to be back in Gen 1. Now you might think to use the Master Ball, but don't. Save it and just chuck Ultra Balls at this test tube baby until he's had enough. Now go grab a level 50 Pokemon like one of the legendary birds and spray yourself with a Repel because we got a Roamer to catch. Depending on what starter you chose, Raikou, Entei, or Suicune will begin roaming around the Kanto region. Just be aware if you get Raikou or Entei, as they know the move Roar, which if used in battle causes a glitch that treats them like they've been knocked out, permanently removing them from the region, and is just another thing to add onto the pile of why I hate roaming legendaries. Alright, now let's talk about something that I briefly mentioned in my Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald video, that being Trainer Hill, or as it's called here in these games, Trainer Tower. You have to battle your way through 8 floors of trainers in order to receive a prize at the top, typically an evolution item like the Upgrade or Dragon Scale. You can also choose a battle mode like Singles, Doubles, Knockout, or Mixed. It's a hard challenge, but can be rewarding if you manage to clear all 8 floors. Also, why does she have a shiny Espeon? Why can't I have that? Now, Trainer Hill is located on the northern part of Seven Island, and it just so happens that there's something else located on the southern part of the island, that being these odd chambers with nothing in them. Well, if we do the strength puzzle on the route above, then the Tanabe Ruins, sounds Australian, will be filled with the alphabet Pokemon Unknown. Now, one minor thing that I'll touch on is the events. FireRed and LeafGreen introduced 2 events which both got carried over to Emerald, and we did talk about them in that video, but just to cover our bases, the Mystic Ticket allows us to head over to Naval Rock to capture the Blazing Phoenix Pokemon Ho-Oh and the Sea Monster Lugia. Secondly is the Aurora Ticket, which gives us the opportunity to capture the mythical Pokemon Deoxys, but when you capture it, you might notice that it looks a bit different than it did in Emerald, and even when you battled it here in FireRed and LeafGreen. Depending on the version that Deoxys currently resides in, its form and stats will change accordingly, and this never gets brought forward in the future games, as they made it so that you just change Deoxys' form by interacting with a meteorite or something like that. Finally, we can revisit the Elite Four and re-challenge them, where for the first time ever in the series, they'll actually be stronger and have various Johto Pokemon mixed in with their teams. This can definitely make their fights more interesting, except for Blues. This somehow makes his fight easier than before. Well, after crushing Blue's hopes and dreams a second time, we can end our revisit to the Kanto region. Now wait a second, you failed to fill out your Pokedex, so it looks like I'm going to be plowing your mother like fields of corn when I was a young lad. Vaporwave, bite his balls off. Ah, yes, the most compatible Pokemon is mauling my balls off of me. What a delight! Well, that happened. But anyway, Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen are absolutely fantastic remakes of the original games. Getting to experience a more up-to-date Kanto, while also seeing all the new content that was added to the games, makes this to this day the definitive Kanto experience. There are some things that I personally would have done differently, like integrating the new evolutions that some Kanto Pokemon got in later gens into the main game, but I suppose that would fly in the face of keeping the main game experience relatively the same as Red, Green, and Blue. Either way, that doesn't change the fact that FireRed and LeafGreen are proof that Pokemon can do faithful remakes. They just have to be a game that never got a good third version, and since Black and White didn't get a great version, we have nothing to fear when those games get remakes. I hope. Well, with that, we are done with the GBA Pokemon games, but not with Generation 3, as we have 2 more games to look at on the Nintendo GameCube. So when we next meet for Pokemon, it'll be with Pokemon Colosseum. If that sounds fun to you, then be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. With all of that said, have a great day or night. Peace.